1 minute. Just wanted to get everything set up on here first. Okay. Trying to find this thing I had last time I did this. Okay. All right. So this is Pure Spirits Only Life Coach Diamond presents episode 5 of the Pure Spirits Only podcast. Know your worth. So today, I really wanted to touch on this topic because it's something that I noticed I used to do. And, when I was talking with God about it, He was just like, there's so much people that need to hear something like this at this point in their life. So I wanted to come on here and do this episode for you guys today. I know I haven't been posting in a while. It's just this pregnancy's been something else, you guys. But I'm fully rested and let's get into it. So, one of the main things that I've noticed and that I've always been commended on not tolerating in my life is like letting people in and out of my life, right? I'm not one of those people that, you know, let people disregard me and then come back into my life like they can just pick up where they left off. There was a time that I did that in relationships and friendships, but after really doing the work and the self love, I got to a point where I started really understanding my worth and knowing that, you know, it's a boundary that you have to draw and protect yourself when people feel like they can disregard you or do the bare minimum and walk out of your life and then come back in and then just think that they can pick up where they left off, you know? And each topic I touch on is going to point back to knowing your worth, right? So that's why I started with that one because I really feel like it's definitely the most important. A lot of times when people lack accountability, they will try to disappear. And then it's kind of like they have this thing where they want to guilt trip you into going back to normal after they've ghosted you or they've disrespected you or they gave you the bare minimum, whichever one it is. They'll try to just, after some time, they'll just try to like love bomb you in a way. And a lot of people don't know that love bombing isn't just a friendship thing. Well, it's not just a relationship thing, it's a friendship thing and it's a family thing, right? A lot of people do feel like time heals, but I honestly believe that time only heals if the person is actively working on themselves. And as much as us as pure spirits, we might be working on ourselves daily, not everyone, like I've said on this channel many times, is really working on themselves. You know, a lot of people just think time heals and they'll just come back with the same attitude and you'll just accept it. And that's we're gonna keep going back to know your worth because when you know your worth, you're not just gonna accept that someone can give you the bare minimum or walk in and out of your life and then just come back. right? That's why a lot of people have abandonment issues. Um, you know, it's very easy to just kind of want to just have peace, right? But that's not really knowing your worth and holding yourself to a higher regard, and also holding the person accountable for giving you the bare minimum or just deciding when they get to be a part of your life. I was just telling my mom today that, I personally find it disrespectful when people do that to me, because I feel like they're treating me like I can be easily discarded and they can just come and pick me back up whenever. Like I'm not worthy of an apology or any form of accountability. Okay? So, that's why I want to double down on know your worth. Because no one that does that is going to be in alignment with you. It's going to be very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Hi, Medina. Hi, welcome to the live. I'm sorry, I just looked at the phone. I'm pretty much talking about knowing your worth and not letting people in and out of your life. Because sometimes people feel like they can give you the bare minimum or like discard you and stuff like that, and then they can just come back in after a certain amount of time and not even discuss or have a conversation about how they were treating you, like you're just someone that's easily, able to be discarded. And I just wanted to, really touch on that today as the first part of knowing your worth, with this being episode 5, because it gives a lot of people abandonment issues. And I just really, the whole point of my channel is to really pour into, the pure spirits, and let you know that you always deserve the very best in life, because we only have one life, and if someone is giving you the bare minimum or they're treating you like you can just be discarded, they don't have enough respect for you or love for you to be a part of your life. So I always encourage, you guys, and all the pure spirits everywhere to, and I encourage myself with this too as well, to just, want more for myself and always know my worth. Because if you're giving that out in life, where you're not doing that to people and you're genuine all around with your relationships, you deserve that as well. A part of knowing your worth is that you accept what you give out. So if you're giving out your very best, I truly believe that that's the only thing that you should be accepting from others as well. Right? So that was the first part of it. Now I'm going to get into another part of knowing your worth. I have about 4 points that I'm going to touch on. And the next one, it's like, if you're standing up for yourself, it doesn't matter who's upset. That's an extremely big part of knowing your worth. Because a lot of times, this can also go well with the first point that I made, but it also can stand on its own. You know, a lot of times when people, are not being respectful to you, or they're just trying to have their way and not really understand your boundaries or anything like that, when you stand up for yourself, and you're right to stand up for yourself, they're going to be upset about that. Anyone who is benefiting from you not knowing your worth, or having low self-esteem, or letting people abandon you and walk in and out of your life, those people are going to be upset about that. But I want you to get to a point where It doesn't matter who gets upset. Like, it should be upsetting to you to not stand up for yourself. You know what I mean? It should be upsetting to you that they have the audacity to turn around and be upset with you for standing up for your boundaries and having respect for yourself and knowing your worth. Okay? That's what should be upsetting. And really, you don't even have to be upset about it. You can just decide, like I do, not to deal with them, because there's no way on God's green earth, under this sun that we're under, that I'm going to let someone get upset with me for standing up for what's right for myself. You know what I mean? I just think that that's just, I think that's insane. And I feel like it's a part of knowing your worth to not accept that from people. That's the second part. And it does also mesh well with the first point that I made about not letting people in and out of your life. Because when people try to come back into your life, right, after they discarded you and things like that, sometimes they get upset when you don't just want to. Okay. Sometimes they get upset when you don't just want to let them back into your life. You get what I'm saying? So, with that being said, you have to be okay with that when you know your worth. You have to be okay with, all right, you know what? These people are really looking out for the best interest of themselves. They aren't looking out for the best interest of you. Hi, Jessica. They aren't looking out for the best interest of you. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, you have to really know your worth when it comes to people, because they're not going to know it for you. They're going to test those boundaries. One second. Sorry about that. So, like I was saying, if you're standing up for yourself, it doesn't matter who's upset. And that's the whole point. You know, 1 minute. Okay, I am back. All right, so again, if you're standing up for yourself, it doesn't matter who's upset. Now, the third point that I wanted to go into about knowing your worth is I want you guys to make sure that you're not rushing yourself to make important decisions because you're trying to impress others, right? And everything I'm telling you, I've definitely done it before. That's why I'm able to speak on it. Because sometimes when we're trying to make a good impression, whether that's with uh, colleagues, classmates, professors, family, friends, you know, etc., right? It could be anyone. A lot of times when we're trying to make a good impression, we'll just rush ourselves into certain commitments and certain things because we feel like, you know, if we say no, excuse me, it's going to put us in a position to not be liked, right? And no, a part of knowing your worth is knowing that you're not going to be liked a lot of times. And then a lot of times you are going to be liked. Sometimes you're going to be disliked for no reason at all. Sometimes you're going to be disliked because of jealousy. Sometimes you're going to be disliked because you have the confidence to stand up for yourself, or you have the confidence to take your time when making decisions. You know what I mean? People could have multiple reasons why they'll dislike you. I genuinely feel like the people who are really in your corner, whether it's yes or no, it's respected, you know? So that's why I wanted to make that the third point of knowing your worth, because trying to impress others, to me, is not a part of knowing your worth. You know, you really should just strive to be yourself, and whoever appreciates you and is there for you while you're being yourself and loves you being yourself unapologetically, that's who. You don't have to do a bunch of stuff to impress them. Hey everyone, thanks for joining in on the live. You don't have to do a bunch of things to impress them. You know, and that's just, those are the things that I've picked up, you know, on my journey in this life so far. The things that I've noticed about knowing my worth. You know, and then the fourth point that I wanted to speak about was being yourself, right? Being yourself is extremely vital to knowing your worth. You know, I kind of touched on it a little bit in point 3 about being unapologetically yourself. It's like the heights of knowing your worth. Because in this society that we're in today, there's so much things, so many trends on social media, so many different cool things that, you know, people are getting into or trying to be into because they feel like it's popular and everyone is doing it. But I'm not someone that really likes to follow the crowd. I like to, you know, march in my own tune. And that's what I push the Pure Spirits to do, because at the end of the day, um, I feel like true strength comes from being able to stand alone. And that doesn't mean that you always have to be alone. It just really means that if the world doesn't agree with what you like, you don't now go and change what you like or who you are because the world says that that's not cool. You know, it's someone else's opinion, or it could be multiple people's opinion. No one else's opinion should trump yours. They're a person like you're a person. They bleed like you bleed. You get what I'm saying? They're born, they live life, etc. You know how it goes, the stages, right? So, you know, nobody's opinion gets to trump your opinion about what you think is cool. You know, and with those 4 points, I feel like those are the 4 keys to knowing your worth, right? So if we run through them quickly again, it's not letting people in and out of your life. It's standing up for yourself no matter who it upsets. You know, not rushing yourself to make decisions, especially important ones, because you're trying to impress others, and to unapologetically be yourself. Okay, those are the 4 main points to knowing your worth. And I hope that whoever's listening to this, if you missed this episode, I'll post this whole live for you guys so you can see it, of course, in the podcast section of this channel, Pure Spirits Only. And then there will be more content about other things coming out. But yeah, you know, that's something I think is very important. And when you're in the face of people who are insecure and don't know who they are, sometimes they run in packs because a lot of people really don't take the time in this world to really know themselves. They just try to blend in with society so no one singles them out. So when they see that you're by yourself, they'll try to single you out so it's not them who's being singled out, right? That kind of way. And when you know your worth and you're confident, you love yourself, those things don't work. That's how in a lot of, I don't know if you ever, a lot of movies that I've watched, that's kind of how it happens. The person that everyone tries to outcast ends up being the person that changes everybody's life, or the person that everyone hated in the beginning, and then in the end of the movie they just love the person because the person was being themselves no matter what, not trying to fit in with everyone else, not trying to bully anyone or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I feel like, you know, all of those things are essential to a happier life, and a more fulfilling life, because when you're doing what you want to do and what you love and being yourself, there's nothing that's going to make you happier. When you're out here trying to follow trends that you really don't like because you feel like they're popular and you're trying to fit in, you're not going to be happy. That's how people get into depression. Like, that's why a lot of people are sad, because they're not being themselves. Like, they're literally not. You know, anyone who I've ever known who was like depressed, they're usually sad or depressed because they're just living a lie. You know, unless, you know, they're like, you know, something else is going on, family law, stuff like that. That I understand because I've been there too, you know, but a lot of times it's because, you know, people are really just, you know, they're not being themselves. And then, you know, there are people who are being themselves by getting into certain popular trends because that's just something they might already be into, or you get what I'm saying. But for like examples, for someone like me, I consider myself different. I'm into different things. I'm not like into the mainstream baddie aesthetic and stuff. I'm Rasta. That's what I grew up and was raised in. So everything for me is a little more natural. Is a little more don't get me wrong, I still do my, you know, lashes, stuff like that. I have things that I like, but at the end of the day, I like to keep it as natural as possible. Some people like that about me, some people don't. I really could care less because I love it about me. You know what I'm saying? Because I know my worth. You know, so that's exactly what I mean. I'm not going to go on to social media and I'm not going to try to follow the trends and look like everybody else because I don't want anyone to outcast me because I wear my locks out naturally, or I don't have my makeup done all the time, or my nails are not, you know, 10 feet long like certain celebrities or etc. I know girls who like that and have always liked that, and that's who they are, and that's cool, but that's not me, is my point. That could be you, and that could be, you know, you could be trying to do the natural baddie aesthetic like me, where it's like really natural, but you're still beautiful. You still can dress very nice. You still come out, you slay. You know what I'm saying? You'll do your minimal makeup, but it eats down. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing. When really you're the glamorous girl. Like you're sad because you want to be glamorous, but you're trying to fit this aesthetic, excuse me, to impress certain people. You know what I mean? And it's just like all of that stops you from being happy. Like knowing your worth is the key to happiness. It really is. And if you felt like this video wasn't, you know, going into depth about it as much, I also have a video about self-confidence as well. If you go through, you can check out that video, and that's a really big helper on how to build your confidence as well, which will help you, of course, know your worth. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It's your life coach Diamond signing out. Ciao.